Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the October 28th, 2025 Hibbing Public Utilities Commission meeting. All commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioner Sandstead. We will call the meeting to order. Mr. Peterson, are there any adds or deletes?
Yes, Chair Bayless. Commissioners, I'd like to add special announcement, lead action level, Department of Health, and HPU presentation.
Okay, and we'll take that up right away.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Let's move right to that. We will go right to the special announcement. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Bayless and members of the public at home. If you paid attention to the news release from Hibbing Public Utilities this week, as well as an article in Mesabi Tribune and any direct mailings you've received, Hibbing Public Utilities has notified its residents of what is known as a lead action level for our community water supply. And I know this can be concerning for folks, and I just wanted to know that Hibbing Public Utilities is doing everything we can to help spread the word and get the funding in places so that we can get the lead out of the pipelines and the systems, giving our fresh water to our citizens in Hibbing. And with that, I'm joined today by a number of folks from the Department of Health and also Bolton Mink, our water engineer, to explain the situation that's going on in Hibbing today. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Hannah from the Minnesota Department of Health. Hannah, are you on the Zoom call?
Yes, I am. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Hannah. We can hear you. You're good to go if you're ready.
All right, give me one moment just to go ahead and share my screen. Ooh. Can everyone see the PowerPoint presentation all right?
Yeah, we've got you.
All right, so hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Mendez. I'm a compliance engineer with the Drinking Water Protection section of MDH. I specialize in implementing the lead and copper rule, and I work with systems that have lead action level exceedances. So tonight, I want to take the time to discuss the recent lead action level exceedance for the city of Hibbing. I'll briefly go over what a lead action level exceedance means, what Hibbing's results were, what the city is required to do based on the Safe Drinking Water Act, and what residents can do to limit their exposure to lead. So to start, public utilities across the nation are required to test household taps for lead in drinking water by collecting water samples throughout their system. The sampling helps the public system evaluate lead levels in their distribution system and assess if they need to adjust their corrosion control treatment, which is water treatment specifically designed to minimize lead and copper levels in drinking water. A lead action level exceedance indicates that the water system must take action to reduce and eliminate lead from their drinking water. It does not mean that every tap in the community that is used for drinking water has elevated levels of lead, but it does mean that the system has to let the residents know that they are investigating the cause of the elevated lead levels and are taking actions as necessary to evaluate the lead levels and how to reduce them in the future. So in general, homes and buildings that do not have lead service lines or lead plumbing components are less likely to have elevated levels of lead. And when a water utility has a lead action level exceedance, they are required to inform residents and provide them with steps that they can take to reduce lead levels. So recent results from the required lead and copper testing in Hibbing showed that some of the homes and buildings have elevated lead levels. Lead and copper sample sites are selected based on service line materials and interior plumbing. Sites that have lead materials present are prioritized for sampling because they are the ones that are most likely to have elevated lead levels. Between June and September of this year, Hibbing collected 29 lead samples, and of those, 6 were above the lead action level in the Safe Drinking Water Act, which resulted in the lead action level exceedance.
Hannah,
the Minnesota Department of Health.
Could I just interrupt and ask a question? Just if you could explain and clarify for the people at home today, the bottles of water that you're showing on that slide there, in the 90th percentile, you're talking about homes that have identified lead lines already.
Yes, so the lead and copper samples are collected from specific homes. In Hibbing's case, I believe most of them have identified lead lines. I don't know if there's some that might have interior plumbing that qualified them for the sampling. but the compliance with lead and copper sampling is based on what's called a 90th percentile. So that's kind of what this picture is explaining here, is that what that means is that 10% of the homes sampled had lead values above 15. So in this case, the 90th percentile was above the EPA's action level of 15 parts per billion. So not all of the homes sampled were above that level, but because there were some that were Hibbing exceeded the 90th percentile, or the lead action level. Does that help explain?
Yeah, thanks for explaining that. And I think what's important to know is that this lead sampling was designed to target high-risk areas, not necessarily the system overall, but to target people in homes that are most likely to have a risk of lead exposure. So, thanks, Hannah.
Yeah, of course. So the Minnesota Department of Health notified Hibbing of the lead action level exceedance on October 20th when we had all of the results in from the lab. And this is Hibbing's first lead action level exceedance in almost 10 years. So because of that, Hibbing Public Utilities and their consultant, Bolton & Mink, are exploring factors that may have contributed to the recent lead levels, and they have been in communication with us as well. So, Hibbing is required to conduct additional testing to further evaluate and monitor lead levels in drinking water. Additionally, as I just mentioned, Hibbing is working with Bolton & Mink to identify steps to improve corrosion control and therefore reduce lead levels. The utility has provided public notice within 24 hours of hearing about the lead action level exceedance, which is in accordance to Safe Drinking Water Act requirements, and they are currently working on additional public education requirements. And the utility will also continue to look for lead service lines and update their inventory as they go along. So there are a number of ways that residents can reduce their risk for lead in drinking water. They're all outlined in MDH's lead in drinking water page, and the information is also available in the public notice that Hibbing sent out. But to kind of go through it briefly, residents can purchase and use a filter that is certified to reduce lead from drinking water. They can let their water run before using it for drinking or cooking. They can use cold water for drinking, making food, and making baby formula. They can also clean their aerator regularly. They can help Hibbing Public Utilities find lead service lines if the resident's service line material is classified as unknown. Working with the utility to identify this service line material will help them know where all the lead is in the water system. Also being aware about construction in your neighborhood is good, as construction may cause more lead to be released from a lead service line at present. So if you know about it, you can take some steps to reduce your risk. You can also have your water tested for lead. And if that test happens to come back high, you can treat your water or find an alternative source. So at this time, that's all the information I have for you. I do have a QR code and a link to MDH's lead in drinking water webpage if you're interested. I can also take some questions if you have any.
Thank you, Hannah. Does anybody have any questions for Hannah before we move to Brian? Okay, thank you, Hannah. I appreciate that. That's good information for the residents in Hibbing to have. And also, maybe I'm saying something a little bit too soon, but if anybody in Hibbing is watching and wants to know more about their service line, they should contact HPU right away. And then also, we'll get that QR code, and can we get that on our website for people to?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
And that way they can go right to MDH if they need resources that we don't have available.
That sounds great. Yeah, we're also joined by Kim and Stephanie from MDH. Do you have prepared remarks at this time?
No, this is Stephanie Handel. I'm the supervisor of our blood lead surveillance program, so the human health part of it, as opposed to the drinking water part of it. I'm just here if anyone has any questions about potential health impacts of lead in water.
Yeah, I'm Kim Larson, so I'm the supervisor of our drinking water unit. And so Hannah covered most of the information that I wanted to express.
Okay, great, and we really appreciate all the technical support we've received from the Department of Health over the last number of months leading up into this lead action level. And I just also wanted to say thank you very much for sending 30 filters, specific filters that'll arrive tomorrow for us to help pass out to our residents. So with that, Brian, I think you would be next.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Commission. So what I wanted to touch base on is just what the utility has already been doing to address lead in the system, because there are several things that have been going on already for a couple years. The first one I did want to talk about, which Hannah mentioned, was looking at additives at the water treatment plant to help prevent corrosion. As Hannah had stated previously, Hibbing had not had a lead action exceedance for a long time. And so there was not evidence that corrosion was an issue. Now that we've seen the possibility of corrosion, we can look at additives at the treatment plant that help reduce corrosion. So right now we are evaluating additives and then working with the Department of Health to gain approval on using those additives in the water supply that would reduce corrosion. So it'll probably be a few months before anything would be implemented there as we look at the different options. So that is one thing the utility is doing. Things that have also been going on is the utility embarked on identifying all service lines in the system. And really the best method for reducing lead exposure is to get the lead piping out of the system. So although we can reduce corrosion at the treatment facility with additives, in the best case scenario, we want to get the lead piping out of the system. So that's really a huge effort that's been going on, not only for the utility, but nationwide, is trying to get lead pipes out of our systems. So the inventory has been done to identify both the private side of the service line and the utility side to determine if either side has lead. To date, about 33% of the Hibbing system has been identified, and that effort is continuing on as we speak. In last year, the utility received $1 million from the state to help with not only that inventory, but also replacing lead service lines. And so as users are listening to this, one of the biggest things they can do to help is to participate in the lead service line inventory so we can identify where the lead is and then eventually work to get these service lines out of the ground and replaced with a different material. There is funding available to get the lead service line replaced. And so I really want to emphasize that. And so if the community can come together to help identify them, there are funding opportunities to have that full cost fully covered for replacement. So along with the things Hannah said you could do about helping protect yourself from lead exposure, this is a huge one, is take part in the inventory, identify your service lines, so the utility can get that material out of the ground. So again, I said about 33% of the system is identified. During that survey, there were lead lines that were identified. So far the utility has replaced 23 service lines that were known for lead, and there are 3 more planned for this year. I wanted to share my screen for just a second here to show some examples of what that looks like. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yep, we got it.
Great. So what we have in this photo is on the left-hand side, we can see that a service line is being replaced up to the house. In this particular circumstance, the service line actually went under the foundation. So you can see the pipe going under that concrete ledge right here. And not the specific one, but this is an example of what that new service line would look like in the house coming up through the floor. You can see a portion of the floor was cut out to get that line up. So this house previously had lead in their service line. It was replaced with a copper line. And again, this is 100% funded through the state. Another example I have would be, here's a new copper line coming from the curb stop. This curb stop you would find out near the boulevard in your yard, and this is the access to the shutoff valve that supplies water to your home. In this particular example, the service line came through the wall here, and we can see a new meter. And so these are two examples of lead service line replacements that have already taken place that the utility is working on. In addition to this effort, the utility just started potholing curb stops to help identify lines. And in this next photo here, what they're doing is they're using a vac truck and actually sucking out the material around the curb stop here, the shutoff valve, and getting down to the base of that valve so the piping material can be identified on each side of the valve. This is going on right now, but a lot of lines are what is classified as unknown, where the material is unknown, both on the user side and the utility side of this curb stop. And so this is one method that the utility is receiving funding for to actually get down and physically identify the pipe materials in the ground. This work just started this week, and we expect this potholing to continue for a few weeks here with what's left in the construction season, and then hopefully is going to pick up next year. So again, I just want to emphasize the importance of identifying the piping material. If you see work going on in the city, this might be what you see, or if you know it's going to happen at your house, this would be what's happening if they pothole to identify the service material. So those are the highlights of the things the utility has already been working on. And again, these efforts have started over a year ago to identify the lead and get it out of the system. And so again, there's a huge emphasis nationwide on getting the lead pipes out of all of our systems. And as users, the best thing you can do is help the utility identify the material that you have in your home. With that, I'd be happy to turn it back over to anybody from the commission or General Manager Peterson for any questions.
I got a couple questions.
Commissioner?
So when we identify one in that situation, do we go let the homeowner know, or are we who did the work on those replacements? Is that like we tell the homeowner, call Iron Range Plumbing, or are we doing it, or how does it work?
So, lines identified under this program would be replaced under the existing contract we have with Bagalis Construction.
Okay.
And once we do identify, to answer your other question, Commissioner, once we do identify either the utility side or the customer side is lead or galvanized, both of those are kind of the bad materials on service lines. Once we identify that, we have to notify that homeowner as soon as we identify it through this program.
But they don't have to make calls or anything. It's kind of we're taking a lead.
That's right. That's right. We will be notifying them and then scheduling them. What we do need their help with, though, is identifying the inspection. So if your service address is still unknown, we do need your help in kind of taking pictures of your service line. So call the office and get set up for that inspection to happen. And we'll get the utility side inspected as soon as we're able to.
When you say unknown, is it unknown from our perspective or from my perspective as the homeowner?
It would be from our perspective, from the utility's
So
perspective.
there's we have a master list of service lines that are not lead?
Yes. So we have the state is requiring us, and this was in some of the materials that was put on our website, there is a service line inventory throughout the whole state, so you could go to, Virginia and see what address has, what's their service line disposition throughout the whole state. It's a statewide database. It's pretty interesting if you're interested in those things. In there, we have, of our 5,600 or so service lines, in that inventory, over 3,300 are known non-lead. And we have about 2,300 that are quote-unquote unknown, meaning we need to get the inspections done. And we need homeowners' help getting those inspections done on the inside of the home.
So, was that good, Jess?
Thank you.
So I did have a question for Brian on just the timing of the high levels. Is this something that we can correlate to more water projects happening? Is this, are water projects in general likely to kick up more lead from the pipe into the water for testing, or is that not related?
So, and Hannah did mention that a little bit. I'll address it in two different ways here. So the first one is we do have a project going on at the water treatment plant. And just with that happening, some people may think that maybe there's been water quality changes or chemistry changes at the water plant that have caused this. That is not the case. The project that's going on at the treatment plant actually has not been put into operation yet, or it's just starting to get put into operation, and these samples were taken over the course of the last 6 to 8 months. So there's been no chemistry changes at the water plant that would have caused this. Hannah referenced projects out in the distribution system, and sometimes when pipes are disturbed or lines are shut down, water flow changes different directions. You know, some of those things could affect it. There's also the potential that new sampling sites have been identified, and so now there are more known lead services in the system than there were before the inventory started. And so the sampling sites have been updated to take the most susceptible houses, and those are the ones that are sampled. And so before the inventory, when we didn't know where the lead was, you maybe weren't getting all lead service lines sampled. And so because of that, that could have escalated the number of houses that have had higher hits on the lead as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Commissioner?
So Brian, I got a question for you. Can lead be traced in the water system through soldering joints and things like that prior to them taking the lead out of the solder for the copper joints?
It's possible. So that is a potential source of lead. I think in general, it's more commonly found in actual lead piping in the system. Sometimes there were lead goosenecks out at the main. So I think the solder is a possibility, but it's probably not the highest candidate, I guess, if you will, on where it's probably coming from. I would add to that too, just so this question is answered, is as part of this, we will again sample the source water for lead to make sure there's no lead in the source water. That is something that has been tested historically and has not shown up. But with this exceedance, the source water will be tested as well to verify that it is part corrosion in the system where the lead's coming from, not from the source water.
And could you explain source water for the public, please?
Thank you. Water from the groundwater wells that go to the treatment facility. So what I mean by source water is that we'll test the water from the wells to ensure that there's not lead in the water as it's coming out of the ground, meaning it's coming from a natural source in the aquifer. That's what we're verifying.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Anybody else?
I have one more question.
Commissioner?
You had mentioned how, I can't remember how many houses that did the test that actually might have lead.
Of the 30 we tested this summer, I think 4 or 3 had above the 10%, the highest.
So did the PUC reach out to those specific neighborhoods and like let them know, hey, your neighbor
Yeah.
tested?
The homeowners are notified immediately, and we did not mention to the neighborhood only, but we notified the whole system. That's what this lead action level was. Everybody received the notice, so it isn't like your block, we didn't notify the block separately. We were required under the Clean Water Act to notify the whole water system. So it is a mass notification. I think it was mentioned, Kendra heard the radio ad this morning. We were meant to go out and make sure everybody's aware. But there's probably some additional neighborhood information as we go, based on the age of construction of homes. There's some additional targeted work that we could do. But we do need to get everyone's help in getting this lead out of our system.
Yeah, just my thought would be is if, if my neighbor next door to me didn't tell me about the lead, and I didn't, I see the lead-wide system, and I would be more apt to get testing done if I heard my neighbor has it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the tools that people can use is that online service line inventory, where you can actually zoom over the city and see your house, what your line is, what your neighbor's house is, things like that. Commissioner, I think we should incorporate that into our next communication that we do out.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Our friends from the Department of Health, Stephanie, Hannah, anything else you'd like to say about notifications to residents?
So this is Stephanie. I can just share that a common question that comes up from folks is, do I need to go out and get a blood lead test? Do my kids need to go out and get a blood lead test? And you'll notice from Hannah's presentation that we have a lot of actions that people can take. All of those actions are actually just based on the test results that we already have from the system, and do not require any additional blood lead testing from the public. That, whether or not anyone in the household has an elevated blood lead level, we recommend taking some of those preventative actions, like running your water and, participating in the lead service line inventory, et cetera. That being said, our statewide recommendations are that children should be tested at age 1 and age 2 for lead. So that should already be happening, but if parents are unsure, they can check with their pediatricians if they are due for a blood lead test. But otherwise, there's no special recommendations for blood lead testing based on this alone.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay.
Great.
There's nothing further to add?
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everybody,
Thank
for the
you.
information. Very, very helpful, and of course, to the public. If you're unsure, you can reach out to HPU, you can call the office, and they can tell you whether you've had the inspection done.
That's correct.
Or not, if you're just not really sure. So please reach out. If everybody gets this, if we all get on the list, if we need to be on the list, the faster we can get the funding to get it all done, so.
And we are also offering free utility scale water testing for their homes if you would like to have your water tested. So please reach out to the office and have those scheduled as well.
Perfect. Okay.
Mr. Chair, could I add one more thing?
Of course, Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make this announcement too. When it comes to the lead service line inventories, and so people understand this, on each service line, there's what's called the private side and the public side. So that shut-off valve I showed earlier, from there to the house is private. From that valve back to the main is public. And as part of the inventory, both sides of that have to be identified, the public and the private. And if we look at the data already, out of the private side of all the connections in the city, about 60% of the private sides have been identified. But the public side, there's not as many identified because they're all buried, so it's harder to identify that. What I want to get at here is, if the private side is already identified, and let's say it's copper, but the utility side is unknown, the entire line is still classified as unknown because there could be lead before the curb stop. And the reason I'm saying this is the Department of Health has requirements that go out to notify people with unknown service lines. And if it is unknown on the public side, but known on the private side, they'll still get identified that it's unknown because there's a portion of it that's unknown. And that has caused a little bit of confusion in the past because some people have said, well, my service line's been identified. Why am I getting told that it's unknown? That is why that's occurring, because the public side might not be identified. So I just wanted to get that out there. It's an important piece of information, and hopefully that helps people understand the totality of the inventory.
Great, thank you for that. Appreciate that, Brian. Okay, if we have nothing further to add, thank you everybody again for being on the Zoom call and sharing that information with us. And we appreciate all of your help along the way.